The skinning of a cat. You take time to take stock of the situation. You have faced a near army of water cultists, and worse, and somehow got through it with your lives. As their panicked voices fade in time with their fleeing footsteps, you take the opportunity to fall back to a safe area beyond the temple complex, under a veil of protection offered by Leilune. Fully rested and restored, you venture back to the temple to explore it further and rid it of its last denizens. You perceive movement in one part of the complex beyond the underground river and assume it is cultists making their escape. That isn't so for all though, as you are soon locked in combat again with a hag and her cronies. Despite some peril in terms of her frightening gaze, you dispatch them all quickly, locating a pretty sum of treasure in her possession, amongst which is a dragonbone longsword. Taking your prize, you continue through the temple, finally reaching an area with an obvious altar with weird offerings on it. Whoever or whatever was the water prophet appears to have disappeared, leaving you to wonder where. You notice that the water around the altar has a current, and a few of you venture into the cold depths to discover an underwater cave, littered with the cult's treasure and wealth. You place this in your bag of holding before pressing on. The rest of the temple consists of hastily exited rooms, but you do discover a way down into what you think must be a lower level of the temple. You ignore it for now, and Jadago and Quirky decide to investigate a small opening in the south of the temple on the opposite side of the river. They reach the area easily enough, but something makes them hesitate in moving forward, and they quickly abandon the idea and regroup. With the cult of the Crushing Wave destroyed, for now, you decide to head to Feathergale's Spire for supplies and information. It takes you a day of travel through the dwarven ruins and strange caverns before you eventually reach the air temple again. The area is still abandoned, and you pass through safely before you reach Knife Point Gully and head up to the Sighing Valley. You soon realise that the valley is quite different to when you left it. There is a sense of menace, and the air feels doom-laden. As you walk across the valley's meadows, you notice signs of blight and destruction, and you find it difficult to shake the feeling that you are being watched. This is confirmed a few hours later, as you notice disparate packs of gnoll converging on your location. You worry that you might have to make a stand, when in the sky you notice a number of Aarakocra swooping towards you to pick you off the ground and carry you off safely. As you rise from the surface, your fears are confirmed, as the gnoll number close to 100, and, in their midst, staring balefully at you, is a Flind. Darkness has come to the Sighing Valley, and there is a danger it may soon engulf the surrounding region. The Aarakocra are happy to see you, but have disturbing news of their own. They tell of a giant, calling himself the Prophet of Air, who has come to the tower to demand it back in the name of Yan Sibin. Clearly, the Elder Elemental Eye is seeking new narcissists and lunatics to accept his offerings. You decide to rest at the spire before venturing into the Sumber Hills to deal with this giant. The next day, you set off on your flying steeds, which you recover from the spire. After only an hour of scouting, you notice a dense patch of stubborn fog on the hills, which is peculiar. Unable to perceive anything through it, you abandon the idea of flying and set off on foot into the midst. Visibility is poor and your heckles are up. After a short time, you think you can sense movement within the whirling vapours. Muezza is sure he spots something and lets an arrow fly, but it soars harmlessly through the air, meeting nothing but the ground several hundred feet away. Suddenly, what you thought was a low mound rises and throws a large rock into your midst, hurting Muezza badly. At the same time, several air creatures materialize to surround you, and you realize you are in trouble. The combat is fierce. Numerous air myrmidons attack you from the flanks and are adorned in some kind of whirlwind armour that is hard to pierce. However, it is the giant that is of most difficulty. His rocks whiz past you with real venom before he draws his great club and strides forward. Jadargo springs at him, attacking the giant's legs and dancing away before it can react. As the rest of you deal with the myrmidons, the giant bounds towards the Tabaxi and then suddenly disappears, only to reform next to the feline and attack him furiously. That said, the gods are with Jadargo as the giant's swings go awry. Quirky starts to control the battlefield as he surrounds himself with friendly spirits and directs his hammer of Nebelun. This helps to thin out the myrmidons, allowing the rest of you the opportunity to concentrate on the cloud giant. It isn't long before he falls to numerous blows and the fog surrounding you dissipates. A second air prophet is felled. You find a few items of limited value on the giant, but you are more concerned with Muezza's behaviour. The mercurial Tabaxi tears off the cloud giant's trousers and proceeds to remove its scrotum. You watch in fascination and awe as he holds up his hairy trophy and grins his toothy grin. Without asking, and much to your disgust, he dumps it into your bag of holding before skipping off to do whatever else springs to mind. Recovering your wits, you recall your flying steeds and head for Red Larch to find out what's been happening there whilst you've been away. As you arrive and separate to do your different things, Muezza removes the giant's scrot from the bag of holding and heads to the tannery. You're not even sure you want to know what he's making. Red Larch is clearly doing well. Building on your purchases of local businesses and the setup of trade routes by Zometh, your half-orc business manager, the village is profiting on your success. Harburg reports that no cultists have been seen for some time, and he is continuing to ensure a watchtower that you paid for is constructed and manned. During the day, you discuss your next steps and decide to investigate the area of the water temple where Jadargo and Quirky got spooked, before heading to the earth temple. You gather yourselves and head off at your earliest opportunity, conscious that the Elder Elemental Eye may already be preparing another air prophet. As you fly towards Feathergale Spire, the cloud cover is quite low, and you get the uncomfortable feeling that you are being shadowed. Suddenly, both Muezza and Jadargo let out a terrified yelp and dive down out of the clouds, almost crashing into the hills. The rest of you follow, whilst trying to pierce the gloom, but there seems no explanation. Although you suspect there may be a dragon about, as no other creature you know of can cause such panic without being seen. You decide to keep your eyes open and make the rest of the journey by land. Your journey back to the water temple mirrors your previous return, and you note, as the Aarakocra carry you to Knife Point Gully, that the null desolation of the Sighing Valley is getting worse, with clear signs that the Griffin and Manticore have taken flight to higher peaks. You debate whether to deal with the Flind, but decide to head to the water temple and deal with it later. After another long trip in the dark, you arrive in the water temple and begin exploring the last remaining section. A dank, rotten smell pervades the chamber, and the floor is perforated by 8 small pools, each about 3 feet wide and filled to the brim with black, stinking water. Several large stones lie on the floor near the pools, each wrapped several times around by lengths of old rope. A symbol is painted on the southern wall, shaped like an X, with the bottom limbs linked by a horizontal line. With all of you present, you feel much safer, so when Leilune notices what looks like some kind of drowned undead ambling in the area, she immediately attacks. As all of you move to join in, you are swarmed by numerous creatures of similar ilk emerging from the pools, but they are no match for you. In less than a minute they are all destroyed, and you explore the area. However, as Muezza gets close to one of the pools, a creature lunges out from it with a paralysing touch, yanking him into the pool. His life in jeopardy, he is quickly able to shake off the paralysing effects of the attack and reach the surface again before firing into the water with his bow to finish the creature off. Leilune admonishes herself for not enabling the party to breathe water that day. With the water temple now fully explored, you head north to the tunnel that should emerge at the Earth Temple. Again, the way is long and dark, with many twists and turns and choices to explore darker areas that are clearly ruined and dangerous. After about a day of travel, you emerge into a huge hall. Sometime long ago, a seismic event seems to have devastated it, and a deep chasm splits the chamber in two, leaving a wide gap between the room's northern and southern halves. Freestanding pillars of rock to the east of the chasm create natural stepping stones across it. The chasm continues beyond the west wall, and a narrow ledge hugs the south wall of the expanse. 6 huge stone pillars still stand in the chamber, and the ceiling is almost 50 feet high. Each of the pillars anchors heavy iron chains with links as big as a warrior's hand. You do not have long to admire the construction of the hall, as a bewlay shuffles into sight, attracted to the noise you are making. It snorts loudly before looking to charge, but you are by now a well-oiled machine, and position yourselves to take advantage of the terrain, noting that there is a second bewlay poised to enter the fray. However, you have forgotten your last encounter with this type of creature, and leave yourself open to its leap attack, one landing on top of Jadago and knocking him to the ground. Once this painful reminder is had, you alter your tactics and deal with the beasts, destroying a third bewlay that had bounded its way across the chasm. As you take stock of the area, you notice a large creature at the edge of the chasm, about 100 feet away, staring out and trying to locate the source of the noise you had been making. It is dressed in flowing robes, and you guess that it is some kind of earth genie. The noise from its location sounds like a forge, and you decide to try and locate that room in the complex you have entered. Leilune decides to scout the area a little better and sends her owl familiar into the darkness. This highlights further enemies across the chasm, and a double doorway to the west with strange writing on it. You decide to head in that direction and come to a tunnel that runs north and south. Both ends of the tunnel have collapsed, but the west wall has a set of double doors with crude messages painted on them in common. The message on the south door reads, "Norb's room, keep out Brug." In the north door, it says, "Brug's room, Norb's is stupid." Not entirely sure what to expect, you enter the room. Crumbling masonry, huge uncured pelts, and heaps of picked over bones and refuse fill a large room 40 by 70 feet. It looks like it used to be a kitchen or bakery. Huge ancient brick ovens stand in the middle of the chamber, although most are crumbling heaps of red rubble now. Leaning against them is a large Etin. He warns you not to come in, and wants you to bring him food. Both his heads arguing about what type of food that should be. You agree to leave, but then plan your tactics and burst in to attack him. The brute is strong, but no match for the 5 of you, going down under a hail of magic and daggers. Heading further westwards, you come to a large area where water fills a rectangular marble basin in the middle of a hall, and the walls display an ancient frieze that circles the room. The frieze depicts woodland images of deer, bears and game fowl, along with parties of dwarven hunters. The southeast corner of the room is badly damaged, and the walls there are little more than rubble. You note that a door in the north has the sounds of a forge coming through it, and decide to investigate a door in the south first. Upon opening, you are immediately attacked by a cultist guarding the room. The cultist is clearly under a spell's effect, as his skin resembles stone. Another cultist is able to send devastating earth magic into the room you occupy, causing the ground to surge up and damage you. Jadago and Helfi head hastily into the room to try to dispatch the cultists, which again is achieved quickly. Your room by room tactic appears to be working well. On the death of your foes, you are able to release 3 prisoners locked in small cells. There is Walgrada, a hapless female dwarf commoner who was captured while prospecting in the hills near the Sacred Stone Monastery. There is Gerva, a male half-elf noble who is part of the Mirabar delegation. And Droth, a male human who is virtually catatonic but shuffles from place to place. They thank you for saving them and agree to wait there until you let them know it is safe to leave. Moving on, you investigate a door in the west and hear numerous coarse voices exchanging filthy banter. Excited to be meeting more enemies, Jadago enters and is met by 5 ogres. This might have been a bit too much once upon a time, but the Swashbuckler dances between them, cutting them all open. The rest of you do your part in turning what were ogres, oblivious to the ways of the world, into heaps of putrid fleshy jelly. It is now time to head to the forge, and Jadago enters first, brimming with confidence. The rest of you follow, and see 2 Duragar at their workbenches being overseen by a Dao, a great earth genie. The genie asks Jadago to leave, and he ignores the request. She asks him again, and again Jadago is not interested in listening. A third request goes unheeded, and the Dao hefts her great maul, threateningly. Jadago is first to react, and leaps towards the Dao, cutting into her earthen skin before darting away, despite actually knowing whether the Dao was going to attack. The rest of you charge into the room, with Helfi attacking Duragar and Leilune offering support with eldritch blasts. Meanwhile, the Dao slides into the ground as if it is water, meaning it is undetectable to you as it moves beneath your feet. This is something new and leaves you feeling somewhat exposed. Jadago and Quirky take up a position in the corner of the room as the Dao rises elsewhere to encase them in a wall of stone. Both react quickly and leap beyond the growing wall as the Dao once again sinks beneath the ground. You maneuver yourselves to deal with the Duragar and the disconcerting reality of an enemy with an advantage. As you scan the room for movement, the great Dao rises next to Jadago and lays a hand on him, saying, "I told you to leave," causing the Tabaxi to instantly disappear before sinking back into the ground once more. The shock of what has happened reverberates between you and your nervousness is apparent. Once again, you await the appearance of the enemy so that you may take an opportunist attack, but when it reveals itself, it stands next to Helfi, swinging its maul in 2 great arcs and almost crushing the life out of her. The battle is not going your way, and you are down 1 Tabaxi. Thank you for listening to the progress of my Dungeons & Dragons group as they make their way through the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign setting. Watch out for further episodes where we shall find out the fate of Jadago and whether it is truly the end for the overconfident Tabaxi.